today we're having a look at my first thoughts, my first transfer plans going into Game Week 21. Welcome back everyone, FPL Harry here, and today it is Game Week 21 first transfer plans time. I'm recording in the first half of the Arsenal versus Spurs game. It has just gone 2-0. Saka, who's in my lineup, has just picked up his second assist. The first one feels a bit dubious, the own goal, whether there was deflection off Sessegnon, exactly whether it's going to stand or not, but he did get the assist for the Odegaard goal. Whether you've got Odegaard or Saka, things have started quite well. Harry Kane in my lineup, hoping he comes in for something, because I did bench, of course, Ben White going into this fixture because I started John Stones, who is out injured. But we're talking about Game Week 21 now. We're not having a look at Game Week 20 and how it's gone so far. I hope it is going well for you so far. Drop it all in the comment section what you are on. It's not been good for me. It's in a big red arrow, but still got players to play. My lineup for Game Week 21 is lining up as it is on screen. It is a 3-5-2 again. Of course, I brought in Harry Kane this week. He is in there. He's got Fulham. Captaincy currently on Erling Haaland. In the midfield is probably where I'm looking to make my transfers, and it's basically my midfield which is giving me red arrows. I look at Rashford and Martinelli, I'm happy with them. Saka getting returns. I did consider going Saka to Odegaard a few weeks ago, and it was one of my big transfer plans that I spoke about, and it might be something that I still consider doing, looking at moving Saka down to Odegaard just to save the money, just because I think Odegaard and Martinelli are such good value assets at the moment. But it's the other two that I've got in there, which are basically my differentials in my midfield, which is Mahrez, who, if you did know what I did going into Game Week 20, I did sell Mason Mount to go for Mahrez and decided to keep Salah and not go for Kevin De Bruyne, and that hasn't really worked out. Although both Salah and Mount blanked, we currently have KDB scoring more points than Riyad Mahrez with the assist that he picked up in the 2-1 defeat, of course, to Manchester United. In defence, we have Stones at Wolves at home. Now, I'm really hoping that Stones is back fit for this one and he's back available. I will keep an eye on that because it is a good fixture, and I do think they are much better when Stones played. We saw that both the goals they conceded against Manchester United. Whether you think they should have stood or not, we're not here to discuss that. Stones, again, a lot of the mistakes in that match, as I said, came from the centre-back positions, both those goals. I do think Stones being back will help them defensively. Kieran Trippier, the clean sheet magnet, the bonus point magnet is in there. And I'm currently starting Luke Shaw ahead of Ben White. I'm going with the away defender just because Luke Shaw has better bonus potential and is better in terms of attacking threat. I do not think he'll be back at centre-back. I think Martinez will come into the lineup for that one. And then I've gone with Danny Ward in goal. Ward versus Kepa again is very close. I made the wrong decision this week. I started Ward over Kepa. The deadline stream, I decided to change it after the chat convinced me. I'm going to be sticking with my decisions for future weeks. Kepa, of course, getting the 10-pointer would have changed the look of my game week completely, but I went with Ward's 2-pointer, unfortunately. So in terms of the transfers, it's John Stones, but I don't really have too much concern. I think he'll be back for that Wolves game. It's Mahrez and it's Mo Salah. Those are the two that I'm really looking at in my team that are causing me red arrows pretty much every week. So, talking about potential replacements for them, it's worth bearing in mind that double Game Week 21 looks almost impossible to happen. The double going into the game week coming up, we heard that it could be Arsenal. You could have a double for Liverpool in there as well. Chelsea, Everton, Brighton as well could all have doubles in Game Week 21. That looks very unlikely. However, the Game Week 22 double is still possible, could still happen for Manchester United against Leeds. The reason we think it hasn't been announced yet, and a bit of a theory for you, is because Leeds have to have that replay in the third round of the Cup. There are too many moving parts for them to announce, oh, there's going to be a double if Leeds get through, and then if there is no replay for either of them in the fourth round of the Cup, which is when the double would happen. It would happen in the round 4 replay midweek. So if both of them don't have a midweek replay, there's no reason why that game can't go in there, but they might be waiting until the Leeds replay takes place this week before provisionally announcing that fixture, which is why Rodrigo is one of those potential transfers in. But worth clearing that up. Game Week 21 double is pretty much impossible to happen. Game Week 22 double still, I think, has about a 50-50 chance of happening and being announced this week before the Game Week 21 deadline. So do hold your transfers later in the week, even with the price changes you might see early on, because we might get that announcement. But we look at Mo Salah. He's got Chelsea and Wolves in the next 2. So I still think there's a chance that I keep him for it, just because it would be a -4. I think going to Kevin De Bruyne is the simple move, and I do think I should go to Kevin De Bruyne, but I would have to sell Mahrez as well, so selling both of them would be a -4, and I just don't think that's really worth it given the way Chelsea are performing. I've come from the Chelsea game. Yes, we won 1-0, but we're not performing well at the moment. We are leaking chances. Our defence, we had 4 centre-backs on the pitch at the end of the game. It's just ludicrous the way we're playing at the moment. So I do think there's a good chance I end up keeping Salah for 1 week, just for Chelsea, maybe even Wolves. But I think come game week 23, although it's at home to Everton, I do think selling him for the double game week player and Kevin De Bruyne is looking like what I want to do, because Liverpool are just not performing at a high enough level at the moment. Mahrez as well is the other one I think. I liked him for a short-term part. I'll likely keep him for Wolves as well. Again, if he starts at Spurs during the midweek, I might look to sell him just because the chance of him starting 3 games in a row is quite low. I did take that gamble when I decided to bring in Mahrez. We know what he can do when he starts, but the rotation threat is there. So I'll wait and see what happens in the Spurs game. But these are the 2 midfielders over the next few weeks I am looking to sell. In terms of the potential transfers in, I am looking at Rodrigo of Leeds. I could also go Gnonto up front. I could go Greenwood up to Gnonto. I don't have the money in the bank this week to do that, but I could potentially do that next week as part of 2 transfers. So I am looking at Leeds. If they get that double in Game Week 22, it would be Nottingham Forest, and then it would, of course, be Manchester United as well. Game Week 23, they play Manchester United at home, and then Game Week 24, they play Everton, and it does start quite a nice run for them. So if Rodrigo's in there, I don't hate holding him for the long term. Of course, I've spoken about Kevin De Bruyne. He is likely to come into my team for Game Week 23, if not before. I don't necessarily think I need him for Game Week 22, although watching Spurs tonight, I don't particularly think having Manchester City assets against them is necessarily a bad idea. Next up, we have Miguel Almiron, who did blank today. Newcastle, again, only scoring 1 goal. I still think I do want a piece of the Newcastle defence. The only concern with them is the blank potentially coming in Game Week 25. If Newcastle do knock out Southampton in the semi-final of the EFL Cup, there will be a blank for Newcastle in Game Week 25, which will be a bit of a pain. So I do like the idea of buying into Almiron, but I will have a look at potentially how that goes in the semi-finals of the EFL Cup after Game Week 21 about maybe I need to hold off going for Almiron and go for someone else. The other cheap option I could go with if I did potentially want to downgrade someone to upgrade my cheap forward in Greenwood is Matoma, and I think Brighton just continues to look better and better. It was solly March this week. It's been gross in previous weeks. Trossard looks like he's on his way out, which means Matoma is pretty nailed on playing on that left-hand side at just 4.9 million. The upcoming fixtures are really nice. Leicester away, a team conceding a lot of chances. If you're conceding 2 to Nottingham Forest, apologies Forest fans who are actually looking a lot better at the moment, but you know that you're a pretty poor defence if that's happening. Bournemouth, Crystal Palace, and then Fulham, and after that there is a continued nice run of fixtures, and they have potential doubles coming up in the future weeks as well. So Matoma is the cheap option that I really like. I do think that I'm prioritising De Bruyne in for Salah in a couple of weeks, but I don't necessarily think it's worth it this week. It would have to be for a -4. It might depend on whether Mahrez starts going into the Spurs game in the remaining part of Game Week 20. So I've waffled a lot, but basically I'm looking at 2 transfers either this week or next week, bringing in Mahrez and Salah out and then potentially bringing in some replacements. It will depend on whether we get an announcement of a Manchester United versus Leeds double, because if they do double, I could either go straight to De Bruyne, who plays against Tottenham in that Game Week 22 fixture, or I could bring in a double Game Week midfielder and go to De Bruyne the following week. That makes more sense if that double does get announced. If it doesn't get announced before deadline, I might even try and make a -4 to go and just correct my mistakes. I'm basically sat here admitting that I made a mistake and I should have gone for Kevin De Bruyne. I could go Salah to De Bruyne, Mahrez to Matoma, for example, and then I could bring in Gnonto next week or something in my forward line. If that double doesn't get announced, there is a potential I take another -4 to go and get De Bruyne in my team this week, and especially if Mahrez does start against Spurs in the remaining part of Game Week 20. If that double does get announced, I think chances are I'll probably roll my transfer. I could still sell Mahrez, but roll the transfer and look to bring in maybe another Manchester United asset and potentially a Leeds asset going into that double in Game Week 22. So basically there's 2 routes I can go, and it really depends on whether we get an announcement of a Game Week 22 double before the Game Week 21 deadline. So do hold your transfers right up until that. If you've got any questions about your team, about what you're considering doing, drop it in the comment section down below. Please do wait. Of course, we've got the remaining double fixtures. If someone gets injured, if someone gets suspended, you do need to hold on to your transfers right up until the deadline. I made the mistake, of course. You can all laugh at me with John Stones bringing into my team in the early stages of Game Week 20, and he hasn't played so far. Let's hope he plays in the second part, although I do actually have Ben White on my bench, who at half-time of the Arsenal-Spurs game is on a clean sheet. So maybe I don't want John Stones to come back. We'll know at full time at what Ben White gets. But drop any questions you have about your team in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think about my team, what transfers you consider making. We're going to try and hit 1,000 likes on the video. Thank you all so much for the support on the channel. Thank you for all the new subscribers, all the likes as well. Good luck in the remaining part of Game Week 20. I hope your arrows turn green if they are red at the moment, or get even bigger if they are already green. Like and subscribe before you go, and I'll be back again very soon.